Thrilled to have here on the program. I could spend the entire time that what I have with this man by introducing him, but he's the chairman of Vaynerchuk, the active CEO of VaynerMedia. You follow him on Instagram and Twitter at Gary V, the best-selling author. He sells wine. He's got a burgeoning sports agenting business. Gary Vaynerchuk, good to see you here, sir.
Thanks, Rich.
What's going on in your life right now?
Well, the NFL draft's got me super hyped.
Okay, because you are representing
Tyree Jackson,
yes.
DeMarcus Lodge.
Okay.
The schedule is, exciting me.
Your diehard Jet fandom. We just saw you rocking your new Jets jersey at
That's
WrestleMania. Right. What do you know about the schedule? What can you tell me about the schedule that gets released tonight on the NFL Network? What do you think you know?
I think I know that the Jets and Browns play on Monday night to start the season.
Makes sense.
Right. That was the first Monday Night Football game.
Yes. Ever.
I think the Jets and the Steelers play a night game. That's one of my core predictions.
Okay. Le'Veon Bell against the Steelers.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep. That's all I really know.
Okay. But that makes sense for the start of the season for the Jets to have Odell back where he once belonged.
Yep.
The Browns, everybody wants to see what they look like.
The Baker Darnold narrative is something that would be amazing for the NFL for 15 years.
That's true.
As early as they can build that rivalry. This is the second time they're already playing.
Baker Mayfield basically broke out of the Hugh Jackson box that he was being placed in on Thursday Night Football against the Jets.
I was there. It was devastating. I'm still angry. I'm still angry. I left that stadium and, all those, they hadn't won in, 4 years or whatever,
Right. Let him off the mat. Let him off the hook, to use the Dennis Green phrase.
Yeah, that was a classic. So sports cards, I'm going to say it here now on a national stage. I believe that the culture of sneaker flipping is going to bleed into sports cards because these kids can't get enough inventory with sneakers. I bought several hundred Giannis rookies, PSA 10 Prism rookies in August before the season. They were $150 a pop. They're now trading for $380. Gambling, sports betting.
Yeah.
The way that Panini and Topps do things now, there's going to be a $50,000 Zion card to be had out of opening a $6 pack.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Well, I don't think people understand that sports cards are about to become a cultural phenomenon again. And so I'm just putting it on the record in media so I'm historically correct.
So why do you think, why do you sense that? Why
it's already happened. If you've been watching, the market's been moving pretty aggressively for the last year. B, 3 theories. 1, sneaker flippers are running out of inventory, and you can go buy, like I am right now, thousands of De'Aaron Fox rookie cards if you believe he's a player. You can't buy 1,000, pairs of sneakers that are going to flip. Like, you can't get enough inventory. And so a lot of these entrepreneurs that are in the sneaker culture love sports and are going to do the sports card thing. That's 1. 2, sports gambling and betting. In the background, you have Luka playing right now as an image. Right now, there are $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 Luka cards selling, not listed, selling on eBay. And those cards were pulled out of a $3, $4 pack of Prism basketball cards. Once people understand that, I think people are going to get their gambling fix out of opening cards. I don't think most people know that there's going to be several $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 Zion cards to be had out of $4 or $5 packs. That's like a lottery ticket. That's better than a lottery ticket because there's other cards. And third, 43-year-olds, 48-year-olds that grew up in the prime years of sports cards now have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds.
Yeah. And
the same reason toys reboot every 30 years, G.I. Joe, Strawberry Shortcake. I believe that sports cards 87 to 93 was a cultural phenomenon. Huge. And now those people are going to relive it. So I'm making the prediction here on the Rich Eisen show that sports cards is an incredible alternative investment for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, my kids love their basketball cards.
Okay, what about all the cards that I have?
Garbage.
Tens of thousands.
Garbage.
No,
garbage.
From the 90s.
Garbage.
From the early 90s.
Me too. I have millions. Garbage.
Yeah.
Why are those garbage?
Because there was too much supply, not enough demand.
Right.
So, look, maybe you were smart and bought 86, 87 Fleer basketball, and that has all the rookies in it, and that's an incredible set. But what most people have, 87 Topps baseball,
right,
early upper deck, all that stuff, for the most part, that is not strong. What's strong is, pre-1980 graded, you send them to these companies, Beckett, PSA,
right,
and then the new stuff, like the one-of-one Giannis's that are like $10,000. Like, I think LeBron rookies, Kobe rookies, they're trading at about $1,000 a piece. Rated well right now are $5,000 cards in 3 years. So I'm excited. I'm glad I'm bringing it up here because I'll be happy to look at this clip in 3 years.
Gary Vaynerchuk here on the Rich Eisen Show. So the Zion card will be worth more when the Knicks don't get him because Dolan's karma is so terrible, or what happens there,
I don't know if you've heard,
Gary?
because I know you've heard because you're a professional.
Yes.
Patrick Ewing,
Yes.
one of the all-time most underrated players of all time.
Yes.
This is a sports show. Listen, I'm an enormous Knicks fan.
Yes.
I'm also 43. I lived through that golden era.
Me too. I'm 48.
But if you're a
49.
real hardcore basketball knowledgeable fan, what you also know is John Starks and Anthony Mason and Charles Barkley are overrated. Like, they're amazing. They're the best. But I believe that Patrick Ewing is extremely underrated because I don't think people actually understand what he was surrounded by. I really believe that.
So, wait a minute.
Okay.
So his Knicks teammates weren't good?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
Oakley's
saying?
one of my favorites
No.
of all time here.
Mine too. Like I want Oakley to be my best friend. Like, unfortunately he's best friends with Michael Jordan, which, breaks my brain. But
Right.
I think they're very solid players. Like really good players, but not as good as people think because they were so tough and awesome and rad. And I believe that Patrick Ewing is one of the all-time underrated players because of the context of what surrounded him.
He also
So-
played in a great era for centers with David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon.
Well, I mean, but
and early
He's
Shaq.
better than David Robinson. Like he just is.
He's better
like,
than David Robinson?
100%. I mean that. I'm shocked that people don't understand that. I mean it. I just think he's way better.
He just didn't. He
But
just.
that's your Nick fandom.
I know.
No, I
he
really
just-
don't think so. Like, I really, honestly, I mean this. Look, I didn't say Hakeem. My Knicks fandom is the next sentence. He's better than Hakeem Olajuwon. That's my Knicks fandom.
Okay.
My non-Knicks fandom is Patrick Ewing is better than David Robinson, guys. He just is. Like, I lived it. I watched a lot of those. Like Robinson, like I don't know. He was a really, really. The Admiral's a great, nice, solid, great. A real great player. Patrick Ewing's better.
So you're saying the fact that Patrick Ewing, because I'm trying to bring this all full circle here, is that Patrick Ewing is
Real quick on David Robinson. The West was whack. It was the reverse, right? Like
He was MVP of the league.
I don't give a crap. The MVP of the league is not a variable that is super exciting to debate. It's a really you know this. You're too smart for that statement.
To say that he was MVP of the league?
It's an arbitrary, Michael Jordan, I hate him with my whole heart, should have been MVP every year. Like, LeBron should be MVP every year.
Yeah.
They do it on timing, cadence. Like, there's so many variables. Like, MVP is a joke.
Well, it's just
Can
the
we
same
just
way,
get rid of it
it's
in
the
sports?
same way that Coach of the Year should be Belichick every year, or it should have been Phil Jackson every year. Look,
Phil Jackson is an all-time overrated coach.
MVP is also what you remember most
TJ,
about
Phil
that
Jackson's
year.
an all-time overrated coach. Bill Belichick, man, you want to talk about somebody I dislike? All-time. Phil Jackson, enough with Phil Jackson. Show me one Bill Belichick's greatest thing that ever happened to Bill Belichick was Matt Castle. The greatest thing that ever happened to Bill Belichick's career was Brady being out for that year. The problem for Phil is, show me, Larry Brown is a way better coach than Phil Jackson.
I'm loving the takes from Gary Vaynerchuk.
Guys, Larry Brown
right
does
now.
it. You don't believe that?
I
see the dude. You don't believe that, right?
I can totally understand what you're saying, but you also
Show me the one season of data where he didn't have a top single player in the league, and then we can have at least a conversation.
Have you noticed?
I'm not
Chris,
disagreeing with
can
you on
Have
that.
you noticed? Chris,
Nobody's going to
I'm not gonna
disagree. That's
disagree on that.
unemotional. You can't be judged when you have the single best player in the league every time in your entire career.
Have you noticed, Chris, that
Right?
Gary Vaynerchuk has gone on this hot take roll? Although I'm not saying that you don't believe it. Ever since I brought up how Dolan's karma is going to prevent Zion from getting to the Knicks because the ping pong balls weren't bouncing, and that's
Guys.
why you started with Ewing.
Guys,
You think that Ewing being there, Ewing
is going to bring it home.
is going to
I'm confident.
bring Zion home.
I'm confident. The Rangers moved up aggressively in their draft. It's an MSG kind of guys. When the Knicks roll out Durant and Kyrie and Zion and the defensive force known as Mitchell Robinson and the evolution of Kevin Knox as he matures, guys, Nirvana is coming to the Garden.
Oh my God!
I am
You mean
so excited for the next decade of my life. I cannot believe the great joy that I am about to have.
I'm still having a really hard time with you thinking Patrick Ewing is better than David Robinson.
No problem. I understand.
Well,
You're having a tough time with that.
You could make this argument.
No,
could
you
really make
cannot.
this. Yes,
Patrick
you can.
Ewing was never higher than 5th in MVP voting.
I'm going to lose my mind.
But that has
Dude, you cannot use MVP as a variable to a sports debate. It is a ludicrous data point.
It is not.
Okay.
MVP is also what
How
you
old are
remember most from
Let's start
that
with this.
season.
Let's start. This is important. How old are you?
I'm 38.
38? 38?
Yes.
That's like right on the cusp. But like, look, eye test matters. Rich, actually help us here
Yes.
as the oldest statesman here.
Yes.
Do you believe that it's hard? I really believe this. It's hard when you didn't have eye test. Like, if we're really having a conversation, if we're really having a fun debate, not for shtick, I do believe not having eye test data is an issue. Like, if you don't have eye test data, I don't know anything about Oscar Robertson. Like, I don't have eye test data.
I understand
like,
that.
I would love to know more about Dr. J for real. I believe, and then this is like every debate, right?
Sure.
Well, it's like talking about Babe Ruth. Like,
Here's what I can tell you.
None of us ever watched Babe
Patrick
Ruth
Ewing
play.
clowned David Robinson one-on-one in their career, and for real. Like, if you eye test their matchups, I'm telling you, he was a better player on eye test. He just was.
I cannot.
you need to
look,
get your eyes
I
checked.
will not,
Guys,
I'm not saying this
You know,
just because
David
he's our
Robinson,
guest.
he needed.
And I'm
go
from
ahead.
New York City. I'm not.
I'm right. I know you know I'm right.
I mean, until David Robinson
Got Tim Duncan.
got Tim Duncan,
He was nothing.
It was not even a debate.
It wasn't even debate.
And
You guys are Knicks homers. I'm going to let you guys get a pass.
No,
on
no,
this.
no. That's fine.
I
That's
understand
great.
what you're saying.
We can agree.
Like,
we can
I
agree
wish-
to disagree.
I wish this was different
But I do
players.
remember. I do remember. Again, Ewing.
I just told you John Starks Charles Oakley and Anthony Mason are grossly overrated. Let's start with that on your
you're right
thesis
about
that
John
I'm
Starks,
Knicks
but
homing.
I'm saying
Hold on, real quick.
I have no dog
People
in
are
this
listening.
fight. I don't
People
care.
are listening. It's hard for you to stand on a Knicks homer when I just sat here and said 3 all-time emotional Knicks are overrated. I said that. And you come back at me and saying...
but they're not considered great Knicks of all time.
No.
Patrick
Hold
Ewing
on a
is.
second. No. Charles Oakley.
Patrick Ewing-
Charles
Can you
Oakley.
help me here in the
Patrick
corner?
Ewing's number
Can somebody
is in the
jump
rafters.
I see...
Hold on. Charles Oakley is viewed as he's not on the Mount Rushmore, and he's viewed as an all-time great Knick in my mind. Okay.
But Patrick
again,
Ewing
I'm from a
is
different
on
era.
Mount Rushmore.
No. But I just we do need to just remember some of this stuff. And I will say this as a Knick fan before James Dolan beat it out of me. Okay, that Charles Smith was viewed as the great final piece for him.
I thought it was Xavier McDaniel.
Xavier
When
McDaniel.
he came,
It
when
was
the X-Man came?
The X-Man was one of them too. Xavier McDaniel, Charles Smith,
These are
Allen
losers.
Houston.
No,
These are
that
the
was
people-
later.
But he was viewed as somebody that was a savior to the Knicks. I'm talking about people that were saviors to the Knicks. But in terms of the Ewing era, he didn't have those pieces. He didn't have his Pippen. He didn't have his Duncan. David Robinson was lucky enough to get
David
his
Robinson
Duncan.
won nothing in his life. He didn't win that championship. Let's just be very honest here. If you think David Robinson has a ring, you also think B.J. Armstrong has rings.
You're really going to acquit. We can have this off.
What
air.
I'm saying, let me start over. There's a singular person that wins a ring in my Gary Vaynerchuk one-of-one mind in the NBA. There's a singular person. And so David Robinson has 0 rings in my mind. He was not the reason they won that championship, not by any stretch of the imagination.
That was also towards the end of his career, though.
I'm loving
Correct.
this conversation.
Let's talk about David Robinson's 0 NBA Finals appearances in his career prior to Tim Duncan putting him on his
The
damn
Knicks
back.
only made it because Jordan went to play baseball because David Stern kicked him out for
If
gambling.
Patrick Ewing and the Knicks were in the West, they would have went to 4 damn NBA Finals. So let's talk real talk, not bull. 19. Like, this is ludicrous. Let's have real talk.
Gary V on Twitter and Instagram. I mean,
Here's the big key. Here's the big key. This is why I stay quiet about a lot of stuff because I get hot on stuff like this. When you live the eye test of watching that, like that's the key. And I
How
don't
many
know.
Spurs games were you watching?
The Spurs games that I was watching were the playoff games where David Robinson was absolutely doing nothing against Sean Kemp, doing nothing against Karl Malone, doing nothing against Charles Barkley. Those were the games I was
Don't
watching.
forget
Here's the
Drexler.
fun part.
Okay.
Here's the fun part. And this is like,
By
this
the way,
is no
sweetheart
razz.
of a man. Sweetheart of a man. Hall of Famer.
The Admiral?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the best human ever. Like, if I can't wait to see David. Like anytime at all time. Patrick Ewing's a better NBA player than David Robinson.
I do want to bring this up because
Men?
Otherwise we could go on and on this subject.
I need an extra segment.
But I do want to bring this up with you before you go because we talk pop culture here. Nipsey Hussle.
Yeah.
You got to know him.
Jesus, you really changed my
I know.
angle. Go ahead,
I
it's
know.
cool.
No,
I guess
know
I did.
that.
Yes.
You know what I mean. But it is one of those things where you've got 15 different sides to you.
Yep,
You know,
go
there's
ahead,
so many
go ahead.
different ways that I could go in a conversation. But I did want to bring this up, and I know that kind of brings it down a little bit.
it's okay, go ahead.
But I know you love this guy, right?
love this guy.
How did you meet him?
We met him in his studio when he was working on the album that he put out. His camp, my camp, had a lot of good vibes towards each other, and we went into the studio and spent an hour together, and that started. We just, hey, by the way, this is fun to say. You and I hit it off immediately.
Yes.
Sometimes you just know.
Right.
Sometimes you meet somebody, and you just know that you're going to know them for the rest of your life.
Okay.
We really connected, man. He was a really thoughtful kid trying to do a lot of good in his way. I think the thing I'm most passionate about is, for all my shtick and style, if you listen to what I'm saying, there's some real tried and true love and good and positivity. And I really, he had a real message. He was a really hard worker. He was a long-term, I think in 50-year terms, he did as well. Like some of the stuff we would talk about. There's a video of him and I at the NBA All-Star weekend. We had dinner at NBA All-Star not too long ago, obviously. And as soon as he walks in, I say to all my friends, I'm like, get ready for some really deep philosophical talk. Nipsey, the cool rapper. Wait till you hear what we're actually about to talk about. He was very thoughtful. He was a warm heart. He was a good dude. And I bet you, for everybody listening, and I'm sure for a lot of people here who didn't closely follow him, what probably makes me feel best is when this devastating thing happened, I think anybody outside the circle of knowing him really, really well were flabbergasted by how the collective culture so reacted.
Yeah.
He wasn't as big as Pac and Biggie in the macro when this happened, but I think what affected a lot of people that had either never heard of him or maybe heard of him once or twice was like, whoa, why are the biggest names in the game so still? I mean, I'm getting goosebumps. Still, 3 weeks later, posting so emotionally. It was because if you actually had the luxury to even know him a little bit, he impacted you immediately. He was a special guy.
That's why I wanted to bring him up.
I'm glad you did.
Because, of people that I know, you're the one that I knew that you knew him.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to bring it up.
I'm glad you did.
Certainly here in Los Angeles, where obviously he
was a great sports fan.
So much. I mean, he was at the I think he was at the Sweet 16 games down in Anaheim.
He was.
The weekend he passed. I mean,
he was a special dude.
They're talking about maybe putting a banner in Staples.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Did you hear that conversation?
Yeah, Arash Markazi wrote a column about that.
If you knew, I'm sure you guys saw from a sports standpoint, like a lot of the players around the league's reactions. There's that Durant Curry clip. Like in the streets, in the culture, he meant so much. He was doing so much good. He was trying so hard in his way to do such a real thing. He was a really special dude.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
David Robinson.
Yeah. Go switch back. Gary Vaynerchuk. Follow him like the rest of the free world on Instagram and on Twitter at Gary V. Gary VEE.
Wait a minute. There's no other segment?
There's one other one we're going to do.
Can I sneak? We have to
more.
talk Jets a little
Okay.
bit. I got things to say.
Okay.
This Robinson Ewing thing threw me off.
This is going to be on our app at Eisen
Okay.
Overtime. This next conversation.
Download
with
the
Gary
app,
Vaynerchuk.
everyone, on Earth.
Colin Hanks still to come here on this program.
Bump him. I got things to say.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.